Thank you today, Vlad, for having us. We are at Happy Munkey Dispensary, his first shop that opened here in New York. Vlad, you are a cannabis mogul, a legend, and a pioneer in this space. I'd love it if you could take the opportunity to tell us what got you here today.
That's a pretty loaded question. First of all, thank you both for having me on here and for coming to highlight and amplify our voices and our story and our legacy. Born and raised here in New York, Harlem, Sugar Hill. Been in the cannabis industry for 27 years. It's a funny story that correlates to this store right here. 27 years ago, my area didn't have the best cannabis. We would have to travel up here to get the high quality cannabis. And I told myself, you know what, this could maybe be my thing. So I'm gonna buy an ounce. If it doesn't sell, I'll smoke it. And never had a job ever since. Been in the cannabis industry ever since. That was 1998. Now fast forward to open the first legal licensed dispensary in that same community is like a full circle moment, Come from first generation parents from the Dominican Republic. Always felt like even before the government agreed that I was doing something positive for my community, because I know it helped me with, growing up in impoverished, rough areas with mental health, helped me get through tough times. So even when I was involved, I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong to my community. Fast forward 7 years ago, I got together with my three partners, John, Ramon, and Omar, and we started doing events together at a speakeasy that we had downtown by Times Square. They had a recording studio there. We already had the real estate, and we felt like there was no place for people to gather and consume. And we said, you know what, we're gonna call our friends up and just have an event. The space like this big, it was 5,000 square feet. We did one event. It went 0 to 1,000. We had 200 people, then once a week, then once a month. Then in 2019, Forbes called us the Studio 54 of Cannabis. From there, we knew we were on to something bigger than cannabis, like a movement, because at the time, all the big movements and culture brands were West Coast based. Cannabis wasn't legal yet, so we couldn't go that route, but we were like, this is a lifestyle. This is the New York City lifestyle of cannabis. And we trademarked first as a lifestyle company. First, we started with a podcast that has over 100 episodes now. Then we went into merchandise and clothing, then events. Then COVID hit, we stopped doing that. We became advocates, we fought for legalization. We've seen in other states where we had heard where people like us and marginalized people got left out of the conversation, they got left out of the opportunity. We fought, we started a petition, got thousands of signatures. We got the MRTA, which is the most equitable bill in the country. Then we started pursuing licenses. From there, I got this one and my partner Ramon got the one in Brooklyn. And now we're here from legacy to legal, operating and, changing the narrative, because I wish I had somebody in my community that aligned with my values, looked like me, doing something positive. And the goal is that if we can do it, anybody in the community can do it. And it's not our dispensary. The goal is for it to be a community hub for everybody in the community to come educate themselves on the benefits of the plant and the economic benefits and how you could turn a negative into a positive.
So before I met you, before we started working together, all the way in the West Coast, we heard about the brand. We heard Happy Munkey. And it was so impactful because then when I started seeing you around and speaking and, you were advocating for cannabis, and there was this brand, Happy Munkey, that seemed so large and just kind of bigger than anything else that was going on in New York. What is behind the brand? What is the Happy Munkey?
One part is, like I tell you, the whole New York City lifestyle part. The other part is that we also carry on our shoulders the 80 years of legacy pioneers that died, went to prison, got deported, to carry this plant during Prohibition times, and also to create the $6 billion a year industry. So we represent that because we're one of the few that was able to make the transition like we did. So we represent all those morals, principles, and values in this new industry. It's a combination of being the New York lifestyle company and carrying those morals, principles, and values and those sacrifices into this new chapter. And it doesn't hurt too that I've spoken in every cannabis conference in America, UK, Spain, Mexico, won 2 Clear Awards, featured on Forbes, New York Times, Bloomberg. But you know, I'm giving you the foundation of it all, the why and the purpose. Then that was the stuff that amplified it so people like you can hear about it.
Right. We're speaking about the challenges of navigating a regulated system compared to, you know, the legacy market, and you having to wear several hats as an entrepreneur, lawyer, lobbyist, accountant. And I'm just interested, what advice would you give any future entrepreneurs that are looking to get into the business or perhaps haven't opened their dispensaries regarding how to vet your partners, how to build a team, how to build a trusting team in a market or in an industry that, you know, hasn't been here before?
I would say look for a mentor that's been down the path, specifically where you plan on operating at, because everything is different in every place when it comes to cannabis, because it's like different countries when it comes to laws and, you know, culture and demographics and etc. Because there's so many variables, like you said. Even though I knew the plant, me and my team, you know, understood consumers, understood the culture, we didn't know about 280E. We did not know that landlords were going to try to hit us with green tax. We did not know how many predators there are when it comes to investment. We did not know how many service companies that don't have the morals and principles that Curate has that will try to overcharge us and etc. So these are things that you can't Google. So that's why my biggest advice would be like to find a mentor that went through it and can tell you by trial and error, because this industry is in its infancy and we're the tip of the spear. So it's not like other industries where you have, you know, decades of data. We have very little data. So your best bet is someone in your vicinity that's gone through the path that you're trying to walk through.
That's great advice. New York is similar to what we run into in Canada, where the police and government don't necessarily have complete control and jurisdiction to close down gray market stores. Obviously, it's still a huge part of New York. How do you differentiate yourself and set you guys up for success with still competing with gray market stores and delivery services?
What I like to tell my staff is that we are not just selling cannabis. We're selling education, information, inspiration, and an experience. And then cannabis is a bonus. Because in Canada, here and everywhere, people have, especially in this era, whether it's cannabis or any other industry, people have unlimited amount of options. The way that we try to stand out is by, you know, you see how our store's set up. It's in an experiential way, like not in a transactional way. You can sit here while you're waiting for your car, your train, and your friend to pick you up. You can read a table book. You can stop by our Explorer screen and you can learn about terpenes, cannabinoids, where your tax dollars go, the medicinal benefits of cannabis, our story. You can walk around, look at some of the art. You can have a bud tender really educate you and guide you to the right products. All of that to say, we are not just providing a product, we're providing an experience. And I feel like that's the difference. And we have a why and a purpose and a story to go along with that.
You know, something that I always hear you say since the first time I met you is how important community is to you. How do you bring the community into this experience? What's your bridge?
Oof, that's another loaded question, but that's a multi-pronged approach. So give you some examples that we've done here. We're here all over the country. There's always a Chamber of Commerce. So over here, we have the Washington Heights Chamber of Commerce. It's the biggest community body up here. And they quarterly host events for their members, usually at nightclubs, restaurants, bars. For the first time in history, they hosted it here, right here in this room where you're in. So now we got their members to come for a different reason and destigmatize cannabis, like, oh, we're having Chamber of Commerce meetings and that domino effect, aside from who was here, also penetrates to the community. Also, we have really great relationships with some of the local politicians. We've had the biggest Latin congressman in the country. His name is Adriano Espaillat, come here, local assembly member. So that also tells people, oh, it's good enough for them, it's safe for me. I've also done 3 presentations. I did 2 at a local senior center here on the medicinal benefits of cannabis. The last one that I did was I went to the aging committee at the community board and made a presentation for them, so now they can tell all the senior facilities around here that we are going out of our way to bring the education to them, and we want to be good stewards of the community. On a culture side, we on 420 had a big event here. We had Funk Master Flex, biggest hip hop DJ in the world, spinning here. So that's why I say it's a multi-pronged approach, because we all know that cannabis is this scalpel that in this divided, polarized world unites, cuts through all the divisions, and you have to use it in that way to meet people where they are, no matter what medium, no matter what age, race, or religion.
Vlad, just after doing a tour of the store, it's pretty evident that it's extremely intentional, design focused. There's a purpose and a place for literally everything and how it's laid out. So I'm curious to know what your process is and decision-making criteria for bringing product into the store. Local brands that you're familiar with. What's that selection and vetting process look like for you guys?
There's about 500-600 brands in New York, and we always have been about quality, not about quantity. So we maybe have like 40 to 50 brands in the store, and it's based on like, what we consume it. Is the pricing right for our community and etc. They align with our values and etc. Because we know that like when you go to a sneaker store or something and there's 1,000 options, we've seen dispensaries that also are displayed that way. It's overwhelming, and you got to remember where I started at when I started the conversation, Britt, because context matter and consumer community and where everybody's in different chapters. This is the first legal one in this area in history. So what that means is, for many people, this is their first time walking into a dispensary. So we have to make it digestible and educational and not overwhelm them like they're insider experts like us, which I think I've seen many people make that mistake. Meet people where they are and make it very simple and easy to navigate, because if not, you can lose them if you overwhelm them.
Right. So what are some of your favorite brands?
Right now, I'll give you some of the latest ones that came in that I really like. I like Preferred Gardens. It's a pretty good grower that just came to town, pretty renowned, known from the West Coast. Locally, I like Heirloom. They are like, 100-year-old apple farm that has been around for a while. There's one that a lot of people don't know about. It's a local micro grow called Cannabis. So it's really high quality cannabis, but it's not known because they have very little output. So just give you some of my top 3 without you getting me into any kind of trouble over here. It's important for people to know why we picked this location. We could have opened anywhere in Manhattan. We spent, close to $2 million in this place. There was a reason why we were the first ones in history up here. Because before us, nobody wanted to go north of 125th. And these are the reasons why at the time. Because everybody, and I'm sure you've seen this in Canada, like I said, was chasing shiny things. 34th Street, Times Square, Soho, Tribeca, but I'm sure you've seen in Canada, like we've seen here, that's not always the best end result. People that chase shiny things because they're chasing them for the wrong reasons. And we have always, one of our sayings is we don't do it for the clout, we do it for the culture, as you saw on the wall. So now it's time to put our money where our mouth is when it came to actually opening this location. This area right here is probably the highest selling retail illicit cannabis place in the country. So right away when we thought what the reason nobody had been up here was like, those people, there's no money up there. There's too much trouble up there. There's too much crime up there. And a lot of those people, and we're like, oh, those are our people because that's where we're from. And we think you're seriously mistaken. They just have never had the option. And we want to be the example of like not just bringing them cannabis, they had that already, but bringing the education, the information, and the inspiration. So then the other Vlad that's 20 years old, like I was, says, damn, Vlad did it, I can do it. Also destigmatizing it where like they never seen it in this fashion before. Like, oh, this is something totally different than what I assumed it was. The other one is the sense of pride of now they go to downtown, Soho, Tribeca, wherever they go, they run into a dispensary. They're like, there's a nicer one in my community. So now it's not our dispensary, it's their dispensary. And that's a big reason why we chose this location.
I love it. I also love this room. Like you made a comment on like, good morning.
Good morning, America. This is good afternoon, indictment.
Yeah.
And that was part of it, like to make it like, not like this fogged out thing where it's like sketchy and it's like, no, like people walk by for the first 6 months. Is it an art gallery? Is it a furniture store? What is it?
It's inviting.
Yeah.
It's inviting, and you have good people here. So would love to learn a little bit about your vetting and selection process. Clearly that's important. You're hiring a team to portray your brand, and obviously want your customers to have that experience when they come in here. How was the selection process when you were building your team?
It was tough, but at the same time, it was really, really good because we had a huge pool to pick from. When we opened and we put out the applications, we got 5,000 people to apply because the perspective was, this is not a dispensary, this is a movement. Those dispensaries are transactional. This has a why, a purpose, and we want to be part of that. I think that attracted quality people that want to be part of a movement and a story and something that's changing society in a deeper way than just serving somebody an eight.
I love it because, you know, Brytany was saying, you were saying like everything is an experience, and I was asking about community, and I take it Jordan Geraldo's an artist from the community, right?
Yeah, he's a photographer that's been working with us for a while. He's from the community, from Dominican Republic, Uptown. He won an award for best photographer in cannabis in New York. And it's just that same kind of thing where we get to bring local talent that otherwise wouldn't get the amplification that they deserve, you know?
Yeah, I really like when folks do that. I mean, in cannabis, outside of cannabis, I mean, the local coffee shop, and you bring in like community, that makes it feel like home. Even if it's not your home, gives you a little piece of, you know, the home you're in.
That's another thing right there that you mentioned that was a challenge for us. Remember, you just said it before we opened. We have this global movement, this brand that's known all over the world that caters to the culture and the corporate, caters to Main Street, Wall Street, caters to the projects, to Beverly Hills. So it's like, how do you bottle that into 4,000 square feet? The goal was to make it high-end finishes, but also keeping the culture here. So if you're from the housing projects, you feel at home. If you are from Tribeca, you feel at home. And that was a tough balance that we had to strike here because we're catering to both. And then on top of it, when you have now, because one thing is to make it look one way, but another way is to make it really functional. The way that we have fortune to work with Curate, to have the cameras working amazingly, the music, the electronics, the technology, all be in sync in such a large space. Once again, we're lucky to have run into an amazing company like yours that helped us maximize our vision when it came to that.
I appreciate it. And vibe is one of the biggest things. It carries through everything. When you throw an event and an experience, it's like, that's what people remember. Like home cooking, the smell, the feel, right? The memory, but like to repeatedly do it, because If I come in here one time and I have an amazing experience, well, the next time I come in, I'm gonna want the same amazing experience, right? So consistency. But I think you guys, those early calls where we were just talking about vibe, those are some of my favorite calls because there was nothing real tangible. It was all like, I want it to feel this way, or this is what I want you to think or feel or see when you walk in. So those were some fun conversations. And now to sit in it, and then it's a good experience.
I'm really happy that we get to work with amazing people like you because one thing is to have a vision and a mission, but then to make it come to fruition is a totally different thing. And now it's here, Of course, we all want to do well for ourselves financially, but at the highest level, we hope this can be a landmark here where this helped change and heal a community.
And future dispensary owners, take note, this is one of very few who actually works at their stores, shifts. So that's extremely important and a huge testament to your commitment to your community and your people here.
I would add that you were talking about mentorship. I think you are a good mentor for this community and for this space and beyond New York, just for cannabis. So I'm really proud of everything that you've done, and I'm super excited to see what else you're going to do.
Well, what keeps that going is that we don't do it for the clout, we do it for the culture. And that's the whole fuel behind everything.